Right now, the practice problem from class today. So a lot of you left this blank in your homework. I think there were a lot of words and you got confused or stressed out, but these are the kinds of problems that are going to be on the MCAS. So you really need to make sure that you at least try when you find a word problem that's long like this, okay? So I wrote out the problem. The geographic center of Massachusetts is in Rutland at 42.4 degrees, what is this? North, and 71.9 degrees west. Hamden is near the southern border of Massachusetts at 42.1 degrees north and 72.4 degrees west. Okay, so even though they give us these latitude and longitude coordinates, just ignore latitude and longitude. They're just giving you coordinates. So you can just treat them like you would an X and a Y, okay? So that's what I did. And then I just rewrote them over here. So they're just more like organized. I pulled the information out and just rewrote it over here. So the first question is asking me if Hampton is one endpoint of a segment. Okay, so Hamden is the endpoint, and Rutland is the midpoint. Find the latitude and longitude of the other endpoint. So they're just looking to find the X and Y of the other endpoint. So right now I have my endpoint 1 equals Hampton. My endpoint 2 equals unknown. We don't know what that one is, so we're going to try to find that. And then my midpoint is Rutland. All right, so the coordinates for Hamden are 42.1, 72.4, and then the coordinates for Rutland are 42.4 and 71.9. Okay, so I'm going to plug all this info in blue into the midpoint formulas, okay? So I have X midpoint equals X endpoint plus X endpoint over 2. I have Y midpoint equals Y endpoint plus Y endpoint over 2. My X midpoint is this value right here. So that's 42.4 equals, one of my X endpoints is 42.1 plus X endpoint over 2. I'm going to solve for X, and I'll get X equals, I'm not doing the full math because I don't have a lot of space, and you should know how to solve equations by now. So my X endpoint is going to be 42.7. And then over here, my Y midpoint is going to be 71.9. 71.9 equals, my Y endpoint up here is 72.4 plus the unknown Y endpoint all over 2. I'm going to solve for Y endpoint. Sorry, this is the endpoint. And I'm going to get 71.4. Okay? So the endpoint that I'm trying to find in number 1 is going to be, make sure you write your answers as coordinates, okay? So it's going to be 42.7, 71.4. And that is the latitude, which is the X, and the longitude of the missing endpoint. All right, so now we are going to go on to question 2. All right, so question 2 is asking us, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to write this while I pause the video and then restart, so you don't need to wait here and watch me write it, okay? Hold on just a moment. Okay, so I wrote the question, and it says, if Hamden is the midpoint of a segment and Rutland is one of the endpoints, find the latitude and the longitude of the other endpoint. Okay, so we know that one endpoint is Rutland, which is 42.4, 71.9. Okay. The midpoint, as it says right up here, is Hamden is the midpoint. Okay, so Hamden (42.1), 72.4. Okay, and then the other endpoint is unknown. We're trying to find that, okay? All right, so this is all of our info. We're going to plug it into our midpoint formulas. Okay, so we have x midpoint equals Hamden. So x midpoint is going to equal 42.1 plus x. Oh wait, I'm so sorry. I'm going to write the formula out first, okay? So we have x midpoint equals x endpoint plus x endpoint all over 2. And then our y midpoint is y endpoint plus y endpoint all over 2. So our x midpoint value is going to be 42.1 equals our x endpoint value is 42.4, x endpoint over 2. Solve for x endpoint, and we're going to get that as 41.8, 41.8. The y midpoint is 72.4. Plus the missing y endpoint all over 2. We know that this value is, hold on, I messed up. Okay. So the y midpoint value is 72.4 equals, the y endpoint value up here is 71.9. This is all over 2. So I'm going to solve for y endpoint, and I'm going to get 72.9. Okay, so we were told to find the latitude and the longitude of the other endpoint. So the other endpoint equals 41.8, 72.9. All right. And the third part. Okay, so the third part is asking us to find the midpoint. So find the midpoint of the segment between Hamden and Rutland. Okay, so my two endpoints are going to be Hamden and Rutland. And the coordinates for those are 42.1 and 42.4, 71.9. Okay, so we are trying to find the midpoint. All right, so here's all of our information written out. All right. So let's write out our formulas. We have x midpoint equals x endpoint plus x endpoint over 2. We have y midpoint equals y endpoint plus y endpoint over 2. Let's plug in our values, okay? So our x endpoint is 42.1. So we have 42.1 plus 42.4 over 2. Our x midpoint is going to be 42.25. All right, and then on the y side, our y midpoint is unknown. We are trying to find it. Our y endpoint is 72.4. Our other y endpoint is 71.9. Divided by 2. Y midpoint is 72.51. 72.15, I'm so sorry. Okay, so our answer, the midpoint between Hamden and Rutland, so the point that is halfway between these two is 42.25, 72.15. All right, and we're done.